What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down Jarrett Stidham's throwing mechanics. We're going to be talking about how you guys can throw with velocity, how you guys can throw with speed out, and how you guys can throw with some touch. Let's get started. Guys, if you're a quarterback and you want to get better at reading coverages, improving your football IQ, I think that's probably the most beneficial thing any quarterback could do, knowing what your defense is going to do before they even do it. Check out that link in the description that says how to read defenses. Get access to breakdowns just like this, but where we break down NFL defenses, we break down coverages. You can learn how to read specific coverages and what you can do to beat those coverages. Hope to get you guys signed up soon. So main thing we're going to talk about, let's watch this thing full speed. We're going to talk about how he separates his upper half from his lower half and how his hip drive gets this ball through so he could rip this ball over the middle. Okay, so this is a pretty good angle of this throw, but I know number one, and this is how I like to always start it out, you see how relaxed he is with his upper half, right? Very relaxed with his upper half, not very tense, right? So he's not very tense up here. He's not holding the ball up by his ear. He's not tense with his traps. He's very relaxed with his elbows, and he has a relaxed ball carriage, right? So when I have a relaxed ball carriage here, I got to be able to I can be able to take this ball back and not be tense and take away force from my legs, because all the force that I want to generate comes from my legs and from my hips. And if I'm tense with this ball, holding it up by my ear, that's when I'm taking away force from my legs. So I want to talk about here how his back leg, the second he starts to take this ball back, he's starting to drive with this back leg and getting his hips through, right? They call that dissociation. So you see right here, this is his backstroke, right? A little bit lower than a perfect L angle, right? Which is fine. A lot of people take the ball back different ways, but the main thing is we want to get to this position where my shoulder's locked, or that's how I say it, shoulder locked, but what I mean by that is your shoulder's on the target and your back hip is driving through the throw. So it's separate. So your shoulders are going back as your hips are going forward, okay? So you see he's here, opposite equal position. His front arm is equal to his back arm, opposite equal. And now his back hip, you see how his back hip's coming through? That's what brings him up to this 90-degree angle in his arm. See, a lot of people, old school, we're taught we want to hold this thing by my ear, and then I want to take this thing straight back to 90, right? And I'm not saying that this is not the most efficient way to do things, right? We need a backstroke first, because there's this thing called torque, and there's this thing called having an efficient stroke that we need when we get that by having a backstroke. So when I take this ball to a backstroke right here, and then I drive with my hips, it naturally will bring this ball up to 90 degrees because I'm rotating. Your arm and your rotator cuff has to move like that to get back up to that 90-degree angle. So when we lift this ball, let's not lift it straight up to 90. I need some kind of a backstroke, whether it might be a little bit higher than this. It might be a perfect L, whatever it might be. I just don't want anything real low where your arm gets an opposite L, like a downward facing L, but some kind of a backstroke to where your back hip can drive and get this ball up to that 90. So you see how his back hip drives, and that gets him up to 90. So now he's rotating. He's using his hips. He's swinging open his front hip. He's driving through with his back hip, and this back leg is pushing out directly at the target. That's what we call torque here. When you could separate your upper half from your lower half, that's torque, and that's how you get velocity on the ball. But now this front shoulder is everything, because we could be in this position, we could have great dissociation, shoulders going back, hips going forward. I could be driving, but if I take this front shoulder and I swing this thing out super wide, we're not going to have as much torque as we need. We need to have some kind of a coil effect, some kind of like almost, I think of it like a slingshot to get this ball through. And you see that separation, he finishes square to his target. He's not swinging this front shoulder open, because when you swing this front shoulder open, what that does is that's going to push your follow through, and you're going to leave your follow through outside of your frame. When you swing open with your hips, you let your hips drive this throw, your shoulders stay square to the target, your head stays level, we're going to have a good release point. And I'm going to be able to throw this thing with a lot of accuracy and a lot of velocity. That's a great mechanically sound throw here by Stidham, okay? And we haven't even talked about base, right? That's just solely separating your upper half from your lower half. Let's watch it again one more time. So come in here, nice and relaxed ball carriage, upper half goes back as my hips are going through, dissociate your upper and your lower half. So now we're going to be talking about how to throw a speed out, okay? So this is to the easier side, this is to the right side here, but this is off a rhythm 5-step drop. Don't need to get a ton of depth, and I want to make sure I have my feet set underneath me to where I could drive off this 5th step. So he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you see he's only at about 5 yards. So we're going to talk about this drop here. So this is the same thing from gun. If you're in gun, this is going to be just a 1, 2, 3, or like a shuffle hitch drop. If if you guys know what I'm talking about with the shuffle hitch drop. So right now, this is going to be just a basic 5-step drop. Now, he's only going to get to about 5 yards, and this is a pretty widespread thing that's taught, is when you're throwing a speed out, I don't need to get a ton of depth, because when I get a ton of depth on this drop, I'm going to be leaning all the way back on my back leg here. When I just throw this rhythm 5, it's kind of a big 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of those steps are getting my base together. Now, you see he's in a pretty good base right here. His back foot is just outside of his shoulders, right? You want to be just outside of your shoulders with your base, because when you drive off this back leg, it forces your front foot to come down quick. For those of you that haven't watched the video or might be new to this video, I talk about that a lot. I want to make sure that my base, my feet are just outside my shoulders, and I'm pushing off the inside arch of my foot to get this front foot down. See, what a lot of people do here in this situation is they have their back foot, that inside arch of your back foot, you want to think of that as like your GPS, right? It's going to take you where the ball is going to go, because that's going to line up your hips. But what a lot of people do is they don't push. And they don't push off this inside arch. They don't, the way I say it, I don't squeeze their knee, quote unquote. And what they do is they take this front foot and they swing it behind them and they open it up, right? Because they think if they open up their front foot, that opens up their hips, right? That drive phase from the back leg, that push gets your front foot down, and your hip drive is a totally separate thing. That's why quarterbacks got to have loose hips. I wouldn't say separate. Obviously, it's all connected. But being able to push off of this back leg like he does creates that front stride. And now, because he's driving this knee and he's almost pivoting off that back foot, that's going to be bringing his back hip through. And now his hip is coming through before the ball, and that's torque. And he's keeping that front arm nice and tight to keep that torque. When your back knee is coming through and your hip is coming through before the ball, you know you're going to have a lot of velocity on the throw. When I say squeeze the knee, what I have quarterbacks do is I'll have them stand in the pocket, and I'll put like a medicine ball right behind their foot. They're not standing in the pocket. We do this when we warm up, And what I tell them to do is focus on not letting this back foot swing back and hit that medicine ball. So what we force them to do is push off that inside arch. And the way I say it, I say squeeze your knee. And what I mean by squeezing your knee is this phase right here. Squeezing your knee through trying to bring that back knee as close as you can to that front knee so you can turn that back foot over. Because what does that do? That gets your hips through, and that gets it through before this ball. It's a simple, easy way to think about it. And then you can focus on keeping your front hand nice and tight to your body for torque. And then you see the result. Good spot for that ball. That's a great mechanically sound drop, great mechanically sound throw, way to be in the base and drive that hip, drive that knee, keep the front hand tight. So again, if we're taking a rhythm 5, rhythm 3, I don't need to get a lot of depth. This is like I'm throwing maybe like a bang 8, speed out, whatever it might be, where I'm throwing off of that last step. I'm making sure that I'm getting some rhythm in the drop. Don't need to get a ton of depth, right? Because if we're throwing like a deep dig, I'm probably going to take this 5-step drop and get to about 7, 7.5, one hitch, and bang this thing in there. But because he's only going 10 yards, slow the rhythm down, get my base together so it's a big 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, choppy. I wouldn't say choppy, but under control, get my base together and be able to hit this ball out. Let's watch it again one more time. So under control drop here, hit this thing, drive this ball out. That's a great job by Stidham. So now we're going to be looking at this touch fade here with a little bit of a back shoulder throw. So he doesn't rip this back shoulder, but we're going to talk about how he throws it with touch and gives this guy a chance right here. So let's watch it full speed. So he kind of takes this left, right, hang, and then throw this ball up, give my guy a chance, right? So that's the whole key to this. We got to give my guy a chance. So main thing here is when he gets his feet set, I want you to see how strong of a base he's in. What a lot of people do, a lot of quarterbacks, when they try to throw with touch, is they get their base very vertical. They pop their butt up and they're standing straight up tall, right? But if I can maintain a strong base right here and I'm able to drive off of this back leg, I just take a little bit off it in terms of my hip drive, and I let my follow through be a little bit higher up in the air. So you see, he's still driving from that back leg. You see, he's still squeezing that knee through like we were talking about in the last hit. And he's still bringing that hip through before the ball. He's still rotating. We're still being a rotational athlete. But obviously, he's aiming for the back of this guy's helmet, throwing this thing with a little touch. He doesn't need to throw it in there as hard as he possibly can. So when I want to throw with touch, what I do is I take a little bit off it with my hip drive. I'm maybe not as aggressive with my hip drive as what I would be on like a bang 8 or a speed out like we were talking about. I'm a little bit lighter with my hip drive, but you see, I still maintain my lower half. Your lower half doesn't change. A lot of people think that I just got to stand tall and stand flat-footed to take power off of it. It's just a little bit less aggressive hip drive and a little bit less aggressive of follow-through, and you're really leaving this follow-through where you want it to go, and you're letting this thing go up a little bit higher, okay? So when you're throwing a situation like, let's say I'm throwing a deep go route, right? I want my shoulders to be arced, but this is still a go route, but obviously we're on like the 20, 25, I want to make sure that, I want to make sure that my shoulders stay level, but my follow through is up in the air to kind of give it a nice arc. So you see how his shoulders stay level, his hip drive brings him up a little bit, and his follow through is where this ball's going to go. He's playing with this follow through. He's almost like he's throwing at a dartboard, trying to take a little bit off it. That gives him a nice arc and gives this guy a chance. That's a great ball here by Stidham. That's a great job using touch, throwing a back shoulder. Let's watch it full speed again. So left, right hang. My base does not change. I drive. I keep my shoulders level, get that follow through up in the air. That's a great job by Stidham here, working this touch back shoulder throw. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Please leave in the comments any questions you guys have, any quarterback you guys would like to see me break down next. I'll make sure to get back to you guys. And again, if you want to improve your football IQ, you want to get better at reading coverages, understanding defenses, check out that link in the description. I'll see you guys next time.